take Fox News very seriously. But when the former Director of National Intelligence comes out and confirms that UFOs exist, we've got to give it a quick watch, yeah?
You have seen in your role the most intelligence that anybody has seen other than the president as the Director of National Intelligence. And I've been wanting to ask you this next question for a while. I want to ask you about UFOs, unidentified flying objects. The Pentagon is going to come out with a report by June 1st. And in the $2.3 trillion omnibus appropriations legislation passed in January, it includes the Intelligence Authorization Act, money for the Pentagon to continue investigating UFOs. John, we're going to get this report June 1st. Can you tell us, have unidentified flying objects been seen?
Well, sure. We have lots of reports about what we call unidentified aerial phenomenon. And this actually is a program that's been in place for a few years in terms of a task force that has been there under the National Defense Authorization Act. But as you correctly point out, Maria, there's now a report that will be issued by the Pentagon, by the Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence. I actually wanted to get this information out and declassified before I left office, but we weren't able to get it down into an unclassified format that we could talk about quickly enough. But frankly, there are a lot more sightings than have been made public. Some of those have been declassified. When we talk about sightings, we're talking about objects that have been seen by Navy or Air Force pilots or have been picked up by satellite imagery that frankly engage in actions that are difficult to explain, that movements that are hard to replicate, that we don't have the technology for, or traveling at speeds that exceed the sound barrier without a sonic boom. So in short, things that we are observing that are difficult to explain. And so, there's actually quite a few of those, and I think that information is being gathered and will be put out in a way that the American people can see. We always, when we see these things, Maria, we always look for a plausible explanation. Weather can cause disturbances, visual disturbances. Sometimes we wonder whether or not our adversaries have technologies that are a little bit further down the road than we thought or that we realized. But there are instances where we don't have good explanations for some of the things that we've seen. And, when that information becomes declassified, I'll be able to talk a little bit more about that.
Can you tell us where it was seen?
Actually, all over the world. There have been sightings all over the world. And when we talk about sightings, the other thing I will tell you is it's not just a pilot or just a satellite or some intelligence collection. Usually we have multiple sensors that are picking up these things. And so, again, some of this are just they're unexplained phenomenon. And there's actually quite a few more than have been made public. So I think it'll be healthy for as much of this information to get out there as possible so that the American people can see some of the things that we've been dealing with.
Okay, well, that is pretty extraordinary. We so appreciate that you're talking to us about this. Can this year get any weirder? Pandemic, shutdown, UFOs. John Ratcliffe, it's great to see you.
So let's just really quickly break down what he's talking about here. For one, he's talking about how they have intelligence of UFOs from multiple sources, not just aircraft, not just pilots, not just eyewitnesses, but multiple sensors, satellite imagery, etc. He says they have multiple videos, things that have not been released into the public, things that we're going to get to see. I have to admit, as long as this report is actually released and as long as it's reasonably honest and reasonably detailed, this is going to be incredibly exciting. The Tic Tac videos may only be the tip of the iceberg. How many other images and how many other videos are we going to get to see that are genuine? One of the things in ufology that frustrates the smeg out of me is the amount of fake images that we have to trawl through. The amount of rubbish people have done on their laptops while they're bored sat in their mom's basements. This is going to be genuine evidence, real evidence that we can confirm, that we can cross-check, that we can really take bites out of. And I have to admit, I'm incredibly excited. He obviously doesn't want to go to prison, so he can't talk directly about individual things that he's seen. But let's listen to what he's saying in this video. He is talking about satellite imagery, speeds and maneuvers that they don't believe are possible, aircraft breaking the sound barrier without creating a sonic boom, technologies that at least officially, we don't understand. So, what can we conclude? We can conclude, basically, that at least on the legislative arm of the US government, they are aware these UFOs exist, and they are not being told what they are. So do I think. What do I think is going to happen on June 1st? For one, it's not guaranteed that we're going to get to see this report, so we probably shouldn't get too excited. But I do genuinely believe now it would be quite difficult for the US not to release something. I do worry about the political appetite. It is true that John Ratcliffe is a Republican. Trump, who signed the bill into law, was a Republican, obviously. And Marco Rubio, the vice chair of the US Select Committee on Intelligence, who drafted this bill and added it to the COVID relief fund, was also Republican. So it does seem to be the appetite to do this comes from the Republican Party. We don't know what the Democrat Party's stance is. This could be something that now Biden's in power, the political wind goes out the sails. But let's hope not, and we'll definitely see in the next few months where they stand.